Hello and welcome to Tomlin's Harmonica podcast, where I'll be hanging out with players and teachers and having conversations loosely based around harmonica. This week's guest takes a mixture of sweet country and gospel melodies and fuses them together with heavy blues chops to make him one of the most exciting modern harmonica players on the planet. He has a complete mastery of the overblows and overdraws and knows how to play them with extreme taste. He is Todd Parrot. Welcome to the show, Todd. How are you doing today?
Hey, doing great. Thanks for having me, Tom. Good to see you.
That's absolutely my pleasure. So, for people who don't know where you are currently, will you tell us a little bit about your current location?
Sure. I'm located right outside Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. And I'm originally from North Carolina, so this is my home state.
Nice. And how's everything? We're not going to talk about COVID a ton, but I am always intrigued to hear how it's looking in different parts of the world. How is it where you are?
Well, everything is still closed down, but fortunately for us, we in my household we haven't been impacted too much because my wife and I both work from home, so we haven't really missed a beat, fortunately. So for that, we're very grateful. And of course, with folks being stuck inside, Skype lessons and that sort of thing those have kind of picked up a little bit. So it's actually been a good thing in that regard, but it's very unfortunate for those who are sick and for the lives that have been lost. What a crazy time.
Yeah, it's weird because everyone I've spoken to has kind of had the similar situation of there's been a kind of uptick in lessons because people are at home and they have more time to work on things, which is really cool. But it would be nice if it happened, in slightly different circumstances.
Sure.
But no, I mean it's good. It's good to hear that people are keeping busy. So that's a positive. Are you where you are? Is it kind of urban or more rural?
Well, we're right outside Charlotte, so we're kind of out, sort of in the country, I guess you could say, but this whole area, Charlotte, once you leave Charlotte and go into some of the surrounding areas, it's just kind of like one big giant place. So I guess the closest big city would be Charlotte. That's maybe a half hour.
Okay.
Half hour from me,
but you got a bit of distance from the kind of the crazy city thing.
Yeah. I mean, we typically don't go into Charlotte for much of anything. We kind of stay around this local area. Our normal restaurants and supermarkets and stuff like that. Charlotte is just too. I just don't like traffic, so that's why I stay away.
No, that's fair. Yeah, it's funny. I've spoken to a lot of people about what it's like suddenly being thrown together with their significant other and being stuck at home. And you're in the same situation as me, where like my wife works from home. She works with me, so I mean, like we already spend almost all of our time together. So this hasn't been a massive culture shock. It's not one of those things where like, oh, this is really going to test our relationship. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, we've been quarantined together for quite a while, but we just miss our evenings because we're, as you know, if you're working from home with your wife, usually, at least for us in the evenings, we like to get out and do something just to, just to kind of get out of the house. And now the only thing you can do is maybe go through a drive-through or go to a supermarket. But that's it. So we've been doing more walking and we've gone to the park and stuff like that. So that's actually been good. That's been fun.
Nice. That's good. So when lockdown happened, did you see it as kind of a fun time, like not a fun time in terms of all the bad stuff that's happening, but an opportunity to work on things that you've maybe not had time to do in the past?
Well, sort of, but I'm kind of in that situation, with was being at home it really didn't change a whole lot. I really got busier, so I got less time. I have less time now, but I'm not complaining. I'm thankful for the work. Uh,
Yeah.
but
It's a funny one. So like a lot of my students, so my students on my site, they suddenly kind of jumped their attendance like twofold. So they were coming to all the kind of live sessions and things, and people started saying, "Oh, it'd be great if you did live sessions every single day." And it's like my workload hasn't changed at all. I'm not away from work during all this. I mean, I'd love to do more stuff, but there's only so
yeah,
many hours.
well, I know a lot of musicians and a lot of these harp players. A lot of friends of mine were impacted because of gigs being canceled and that sort of thing. So you've seen quite a few of them doing online lessons and online seminars and stuff. And I've tried to kind of leave that to them because people have asked me if I would consider doing that sort of thing. Yes, maybe, but right now, just out of respect for those guys trying to make a living, I've kind of stayed away from that and just stayed in my corner doing Skypes and things. But so there's a lot of great teachers, Ronnie Shellist, yourself, and so I've just kind of let those guys do that because many of them, as we said, were impacted by not being able to play gigs. And I don't really do a lot of playing out. Most of what I do, if I go to another state to do a workshop or teach, then I'll usually try to find a Sunday morning where I can go into a local church service and play a couple of tunes, maybe 2 or 3 songs, and just go in and do CD sales. So, but as far as like being on the road and traveling and doing gigs all the time, that is not a part of my normal routine. So for those guys that were impacted by that, I've tried to leave the teaching kind of open for them because there's some great people in the harp community, as you know.
Yeah, well, I mean that's kind of the really nice positive thing that I've seen come out of all of this is just everyone kind of rallying together and promoting each other, and it's been super positive, which is brilliant because we need that because it's such a small community. There's no space for people not to be helpful and supportive. So yeah, it's brilliant. But I mean, you had to postpone the Carolina Harp Fest.
Yeah, we did. We had about 103 people registered for that. Maybe a few more. At least that's what came in through the online registration form. So we're still planning on having the event. We're just waiting to see what happens with this virus situation. I don't want to set another date prematurely and have to postpone again, but I'm hoping that, and it's looking like we may have to move it to September, October, but I don't know for sure. We got to keep an eye on the news. But most everyone, there were a few people for fear of traveling and things like that. They kind of backed out before everything got shut down. But for the most part, I would say we have roughly 100 people that are still registered. We're just waiting for a date. I got T-shirts made and everything, so I hope that we're able to pull this off. It's going to be a fun time. We had Ronnie Shellist and Will Wild scheduled to be with us, so that's another thing. We want Will to be able to travel here, so we need to kind of watch and set a date when the travel restrictions are lifted. Because, well, as you know, Will Wild, he's a fantastic player, and I was really impressed with him at Spa when he was at Spa a couple of years ago. Not just his music, but he seemed to be a very humble guy, and the way he interacted with the other harmonica players, he was just very approachable, very nice, just a cool dude. And of course, Ronnie Shellist. Everybody loves Ronnie. But 2 great instructors that we plan to have with us, and a host of other players and teachers as well. And Joe Spires was supposed to be coming. I think he is still coming if we postpone, but makes great custom harps. And that's pretty much all I use if it's a custom harmonica is Joe Spires. He's just phenomenal. His harps are superb. They really did change. They really did change the way that I play because before I got Spires harps, I played overblows in passing.
Mm-hmm.
And the harps that I had would, you may be able to squeeze an overblow out, but it would be squealy, or you may get, some other type of noise. And I just didn't, I knew they were there, but I didn't think you could lean on them. And then when I got my custom harp, my first custom harp from Joe Spires, man, it just, not only could I get the overblows, but then I could push them, I could bend them, move them around, duplicate licks, and it was just like this whole nother world just opened up. And instead of a box of 16 crayons, I now had 64. So he's just great, man. He builds great marine bands, and Golden. I know he does Marine Band Special 20. I'm not sure about Golden Melodies, but he has built Golden Melodies in the past. But his harps are just insanely good. I mean, just cream of the crop, man. I can't say enough good things about Joe, and I don't get anything in return from Joe. I don't get discounts or breaks or anything like that. I just recommend his work because I love him so much and what he does. He's just great. His harps are just phenomenal. I would not be talking to you probably now if it weren't for his custom work, because that was right around the time. That I was starting to get into YouTube, and everybody was starting to get on YouTube. And I made a few videos for YouTube, and then right after that, around 2008 or maybe 2009, I got my first Spires harp, and just everything just blossomed. And so I just can't say enough good things about it.
It's funny you should say that, because that was, I actually wanted to chat about your custom harps and Spires harps, because I've never had a really special custom harmonica, and I'm so uncertain as to whether I would get much out of it, but hearing you describe, hitting overblows as passing notes and then suddenly being able to hit them and use them as useful notes, I mean, that's a really big deal. Do you think that, having played Spires harps since, you said 2008, could you now go back to kind of standard, crossovers, marine bands that are coming out, and has it improved your playing the custom harps?
Oh, well, it'll definitely improve your playing because you have a harmonica that will cooperate with you, not just an overblow harp. I mean, that's one benefit, especially if you get the overblow setup. But if you are just trying to get your bends better, because there are certain things you can do to a harp to make it overblow, but there are other things that he does in his process that just make the reeds interact with one another and respond better. There's lots of things. Everyone thinks that customizing is just about embossing and making the slot tighter, and that's part of it. But there's so many other things that he does. And if you're struggling with the high end blow bends, those tend to just pop in place a lot better. Your 3-draw bends get a lot better because you're able to dial in and, okay, there's the half step, there's the whole step, there's a step and a half. The harp's not fighting you. And so then once you know what an overblow is supposed to feel like, or what a proper bend is supposed to sound like and feel like, then when you go to a stock harp, of course, it's not going to play as well. But if you try to do some of those same techniques, at least you will be able to accomplish it. It may squeal if you try to squeeze out a 6 overblow. It may work great. You never know from the factory. You may have a crossover that's just luck of the draw at the factory. It got a little extra attention, or maybe it got gapped a little better. And it may just overblow great out of the box, but then maybe not. You get some that are squealy, but at least having something that will, it's good to have at least one custom harp so that, you know, if I'm not getting this overblow, or if I'm not getting my bends in tune, or if I'm not doing this, is it my technique or is it the harp? Well, once you get the custom harp, and I'm talking about Spires, yeah, I mean, if you get one of those and it ain't happening, it ain't the harp. So it helps you kind of, you know, pinpoint where your weaknesses are. But you know, I probably would not, if I needed something like a country tuned harmonica, I would probably not spend the money on something like that for a custom country tuned harmonica, because I'm using my country tuned harmonicas for melodies, for ballads, stuff like Danny Boy, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And for those, I'm not doing a lot of overblowing and that sort of thing. I'm just trying to play pretty melodies. And that's another thing with overblowing. I don't usually use the overblow notes for songs where I'm trying to play pretty. If there's a pretty melody and it calls for the 5 overblow, I'd rather use a country tuned harp. So like if you did Somewhere Over the Rainbow, let me see if I have just a regular C. Yeah, so I could play Somewhere Over the Rainbow and I could squeeze out the 5 overblow, but it doesn't sound good to me. So like, no matter how tight, how clean I can get it, it just doesn't have the right quality. Here it is again. No matter how pretty I try to make it, it's not going to sound like this. Here's a country tuned harmonica. When I have the note there that I need, I can just, you know, I can put vibrato on it. I can put inflection on it. I can do the chewing vibrato, I guess as some people call it. Can't do that with an overblow. So, but yeah, just for a regular harp, for regular playing, blues and country and stuff like that, if I'm doing those styles, I would use the 6 overblow more than anything. 6 overblow, 7 overdraw a lot, because those are the 2 notes that you need for the blues scale. I'll use the 5 overblow in passing, and sometimes the 4 overblow in passing. But 6 and 7, I tend to really dial into those, the 6 overblow and the 7 overdraw. So I got to have a harp that'll cooperate for that. And in the context that you use those, they fit. If you're playing blues and you're playing some overblow and you bend it and push it around, it takes on the 6 overblow particularly takes on the same sound as your 3 draw half step bend. So if I'm playing 3 draw half step bend and I'm doing some type of blues thing, so like here's 3 draw half. Here it is on the 4. Well, I can duplicate that. So that's how I think. I don't play overblows and stuff to try to play like Howard Levy or Constantine Reinfeld. Those guys, just the stuff they play is just mind-boggling. Jazz and that sort of thing. I'm just trying to recreate licks on the top of the harp that I'm used to playing on the bottom. And so that's what Joe did. It just opened up the whole second octave of the harmonica. Just the 6 overblow alone does a lot. I also tuned down the 7 draw note on my harmonicas. Now I still play regular harps, but I've got a whole set of harps with the 7 draw tuned down. And people say, well, why do you tune down the 7 if you can play 6 overblow? What's up with that? Well, sometimes I want that overblow note, the 6 overblow note, but I just want it in passing. I want to slide into it, or I want to, for example, if I'm playing just a shuffle and I want to slide into that note, if I've got my 7 draw tuned down, then I can slide in there like this. Here it is again on the 4. All right, so that's one thing I can. And you know, there's a player in the UK. Everybody calls this the Todd Parrot tuning or Parrot tuning. It's really not. I think maybe I popularized it because of YouTube. But and our friend Alan from Golden Bird, he gave us these harps to give away. They put Parrot tuning on.
Nice.
So this is a Golden Bird harmonica in B flat. So we got 50 of these for the first 50 people that registered. Everybody in that group gets a free Golden Bird. So those are already reserved at this point. But there's a player in the UK, Johnny Mars, fantastic harmonica player. I don't see him talked about as much on the forums and things, but what a great player. And he was using the 7 draw tune down probably before I started playing harmonica. I started in January of 1990. And there are other players. We'd have to ask Pat Missin. Pat Missin could tell us everybody who, you know, has used that tuning. I think Lee Oscar may have used it. And there's some other names. I'd have to look. I think I asked him one time, but I didn't invent it. I learned about it partially from Steve Baker's Harp Handbook. It talked about a similar tuning. And then this guy from Louisiana, a friend of mine, fantastic player, but he's just not on social media or YouTube, but his name is Pete Elder, and he's the guy that kind of turned me on to that over the phone. It was probably around 2000 or so, and he said, I've been tuning my 7 draw down. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, like this. This was over a landline phone, so and he left me a voice message one time, and he did something like, so what that is there is a 7 and 8 together. And he did it. It was actually on a G harmonica. I'll never forget it. And I called him back. I said, Pete, what did you say this tuning was again? And I just took an old blues band and tuned it down. And so it gives me that bluesy flavor up in the top of the harp, because the 7 draw is the major third. That's I know we're just doing audio, but the 7 draw is like our Fisher-Price xylophone. This is the third chime. You know, it's like
there is actually a xylophone on screen right now. I'm sad that not everyone can see it.
I use my Fisher-Price xylophone, my toy xylophone. It actually helps for the major scale and the number system. But you know, 7 draw is like Mary Had a Little Lamb, and you know, so if I play, it's not a note that's in the blues scale. Not that it doesn't have a place. It can be used if used properly, but in second position, I just prefer to have that tuned down. And then it lets me, the 7 draw being tuned down also lets me do something that I can't do on a regular harp, and that is to blow bend 7 blow. And you might say, well, 7 blow bends anyway. Yeah, but it only bends about a quarter step. It's not going to bend to a new note because the 7 draw is the next note in the chromatic scale. 7 blow is a C, 7 draw is a B. So when you tune the 7 draw down to a B flat, you've created a space or an interval. And so now you can go to your 7 blow. So if you were playing a blues you can't go to one blow and wail on it. You can't go to four blow and wail on it. They don't bend. But you could go to your seven. And when you come off of that, you just draw seven, and then you can just go right on down your blues scale. So it just kind of makes sense for certain things. It's not a cure-all. There's no one tuning or one position or one harp that's going to be perfect for everything, but it's a good thing to have in your box. I would say everybody needs a Spires custom harp, at least one, and they need at least one harp, even if you've got an old junky one. Tune the seven down, see what you think about it. Sometimes people will tune it down, and they'll say, well, I tried that tuning, but it sounds too minor to me. It has a minor sound. Well, of course it does, because it's a minor third. But you have to put the proper canvas behind your paintbrush. If it's going to sound minor if you play a minor chord. But if you're playing major blues, like you could say the same thing about three draw half step bend. Oh, it sounds minor. It's the blue note, the blue third, the minor third. So the seven draw gives you that. And one thing that I touched on but I didn't demonstrate was bending the seven blow. The seven blow and the sorry for my phone. I thought I turned this down. The seven blow and the eight blow together. You blow seven and eight blow, and now they're both bendable by a half step. So you can blow seven and eight blow and bend them, and then you can draw seven and eight blow. It sounds better on a lower harp, but for example, you could say,
awesome.
Now here it is on here's an A. Let's see here. So you just never know where that can come in handy. And if you are playing minor songs, if you're playing a minor blues like Ain't No Sunshine, or if you're playing whatever, then it's one less note to have to worry about. You can slide all around up top. Basically, basically with the seven draw tuned down, you still can't get the complete blues scale up top. You would still be missing the flat five for all you music theory guys. You'd be missing the flat five, but in harmonica talk, the four draw bend. Mm-hmm. To get the same note as four draw bend up top, you'd still have to bend. You still have to play seven overdraws. So it doesn't unlock that, but it gives you one of the missing notes. So if you think about the blues scale and the minor pentatonic scale, they're the same thing, minus one note, and that would be the four draw bend or the seven overdraw. So if you want to do something like in a minor pentatonic type of style, this seven draw being tuned down lets you do stuff like so you could go so you've got your minor pentatonic scale. So the way that I kind of use that is if I'm playing a blues, 12-bar blues, and I go to the four, I will do some type of minor pentatonic lick. What you hear horn players, this is not like something I created. You hear this quite often if you listen for it. But I'll do this lick, and I'll just dance up to harmonica, and when I get up to hole 6, I can keep going. So here's what I'm talking about. So you got 12 bars. All right, here we go. So I'm exaggerating, but you can to put it back on the four chord. You don't even have to. The only bend note in any of that is just a two draw whole step and three draw half. Once you get past that, it's just a pattern. It's all just blow and draw stuff up there. So anyway, that I love, as you can tell. But yeah,
it's interesting.
All of that stuff is a part of what I do, and it's just a lot of fun. But I still like regular tuned harps. And if I were playing in third position major, which you and I have talked about that in the past, if I were doing that, I would use just a regular tuned harp because it's a different context. So there, I would want the 7 draw to be unaltered. I'd want the harp to be just normal for that situation.
Yeah, it's interesting, this idea that you've brought in that a lot of people kind of shy away from, that there is no one rule that suits every single situation. I think a lot of harmonica players kind of earlier on their journeys kind of think, oh, well, I need to become this kind of player or this kind of player. I'm going to be an overblow player, or I'm going to use alternate tunings. And you it sounds to me like you've made the choice of like what works best for this current musical situation. What is the most musical choice I can make? I think that's really cool. I especially love what you've the Parrot tuning, and even if it isn't your tuning, it's brilliant because it's answered a question that I've had since playing the harmonica, which is, what do you do in the upper octave? So I spent a lot of time learning to overblow so I could hit that flat third. And then I was chatting to more traditional harmonica players after I started teaching, and I discovered that a lot of people switch to playing major in the upper octave when they're playing blues, which is cool because that's the kind of classic harmonica trope. But I love that you've got an alternative to that just sounds super bluesy and super sweet.
Well, and it probably, we'd have to ask Will Wild. He'd be the expert. I know he has his own tuning, but I think having the availability of that note makes it a good tuning for rock and roll, for doing some of those fast. You're never going to make the harmonica sound like somebody shredding on a guitar. Will Wild is the closest I've heard. He does a great job, but he's altered a few notes. But if you listen to some of Johnny Marr's, I don't know the exact tunes, but if you look at his stuff, he's utilized that tuning quite a bit. I wish there were a way to hear more from him. I'm not sure. I'm sure he's still playing these days and doing gigs and stuff, but it would be cool if he would come on and do one of these interviews or something. That he's a player that I'd really be interested to hear more about, and how he started to use that tuning. But he makes good use of it, and he's in your area.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of him, so I'm going to have to do some research after this and find out more about Johnny Marr's. And also, just I'll mention this now, and anyone that Todd mentions or anything interesting that Todd mentions, I've written down in the show notes, so there'll be notes for people to go through if they want to find out more. But one thing I want to say, because no one can see this, but all of those examples where Todd was playing harmonica and there was piano playing, that was Todd's other hand, because badass harmonica pianist. Very cool. So I was going to ask about the keys playing, and how much has playing keys shaped your harmonica playing?
Oh, a bunch. It's been a tremendous help because now you have a visual. Even if you don't play piano, you don't have to learn to play fluently. I started out playing harmonica and copying solos a lot of what I had access to were melody players. And then I would try to get my mom to play the piano. She's not a fluent piano player, but she plays. And I would try to get her to play, or I had a sister that played a little bit, or maybe the lady at church, hey, can you play this song for me? And it just didn't sound the same. And the reason why is because they weren't playing the same chords. And so I started to study, what makes up a chord and how are they getting this sound. And I really just started with piano just to learn how to make backing tracks. I had a piano back then. This was in 1990, and it would record, so you could play and then record that and play yourself back, which now that's quite common with many keyboards that you see at the music shop. But back then that was pretty cool because you could record something and accompany yourself. And that's how I started. I had no intention of doing anything but just trying to play the right chords and match what I heard on these records and stuff. And it just kind of evolved from there. And now I'm able to, and even back then I was able to hold a chord, sound it out on my harmonica. And I didn't know why I knew the 5 draw sounded good in the blues on the one chord, but I didn't understand exactly why. Then when I see, oh, well, the piano's doing that. Oh, that's a part of the chord. So, so it turns the chord from a G, which is 2, 3, 4 draw, to 2, 3, 4, 5, G7. And we're calling it G7 because if you go through the musical scale, it's actually a flat 7. The actual major 7 from our Fisher-Price xylophone would be an F sharp, would be a 5 overblow, but the 5 draw just sounds good. And then I was able to follow that to the other chords. I said, okay, there's my 5 draw. Where does the same thing exist on the 4? Yeah. Where is it? It's not there. Then I realized, 3 draw half step. That's why the 3 draw half step bend. So I play this sometimes just as an example. Steve Geiger said, hey, that's Little Walter off the wall. I said, it is? He said, yeah. Well, okay, but this is what I use for an example. So I'm working my 5. So the exact same thing, if you change to the 4 chord, would be. So I didn't know why that sounded good. I just knew it did. And even the 3 draw half step bend, I don't know why it works this way, but the 3 draw half step bend even sounds good over the 1 chord. And I would look at the 1 chord and I'd say, well, the 3 draw half step bend is not in the chord. How come it sounds so good, like on Jailhouse Rock? I still don't know why it sounds good. I guess that's just the way God made it. It's just a music thing. But the 3 draw half step bend, I was able to say, wow, that adds color. And then I was able to pick out the blues scale. That's what it is. And then I was able to do things like this, just using the blues scale, and particularly the 3 draw half step bend, which is the blue third or the blue note. I know some people think or try to say that the blue note is kind of in the cracks, and I understand where they're coming from with that. A guitar player can bend the strings and get in between the major third and the minor third, but a piano player can't do that. A piano player can only play that. They can't. So from a piano player's point of view, the blue third or the blue note, or the minor third, whatever you want to call it, it's for a piano player, it's just going to be B flat. For us, we call it 3-draw half-step bend. But that note is kind of a place you can anchor and build licks around that note. And this is where experimenting with piano chords brought that out. Because if you look at some of the old chord progressions from some of the Motown music or some of the old 70s rock, or even in songs today, you'll hear chords like this. It's a G7 to a B flat 7 to a C 7. Then we have E flat, F, G, and all these chords are sevens. But I want to play just the blues scale over all of these chords, and I'll show you what it sounds like. Listen. And the thing that kind of, except for the F's, it's kind of that'd be a little bit different. But for all of those chords, the 3-draw half-step bend makes that lick work. That's the G. So there it rubs a little bit. It creates a little bit of dissonance, but in a good way. But when we go to the B flat, we have to get 3-draw half-step bend. I'm still playing the G blues scale, starting on 6th flow. Now here's my C. It's in the chord. All right. Here's my I love this one. This is the E flat 7. It's in the chord. And then here in the F, it's really not a part of that chord, but you can still pass over it and it works. So just being able to experiment with things like that, and that's like Motown, funky, maybe some rock and roll songs do that. And then I've done the same thing with country tunes. I'd go to the 5. Okay, so none of that, what I just played there, had the 5 chord in it. When you go to the 5 chord, and this is where the piano will kind of help you, you have to change gears. So I like to say, you kind of have to jive with the 5. You kind of gotta change gears. And I kind of think of my 5 chord in a couple of ways. I could go to 3rd position and play my 3rd position blues scale, my D blues scale, or I could just use the notes that I have, like, and just kind of do a simpler lick over the 5 chord. I don't have to go crazy, but my point is having the piano there to hold it and experiment. Just like when I go to the 5 chord, I can go, because I was able to see this on the piano. When I go to the 5 chord, I can say 6 draw and then go up to 8 draw. Let's see. So, and I didn't know, at first I didn't know, when I started playing licks like that, does that work? I could go over here and look, the 6 draws are part of that's part of the 5 chord, and the 8 draw is the root note. I didn't know that. Oh, so you mean 8 draw and 4 draw and 1 draw, they're all the same note? Yeah, let me see. Some of it's like, hello, the light bulb, the keyboard, it helps the light bulb go off. And it also helped me with the 3rd position major licks over the 5 chord. You don't have the 5 chord on the harmonica, but you have all of the notes. And then your 4 blow becomes that flat 7th note that we were talking about. So here comes my 5 chord again. So just stuff like that. I'm able to pick it out, or at one time in the past, I was able to kind of plink it out. And even if you don't play all of these crazy chords, if you just learned to play your 1, 4, and 5, go to your piano, and I would say learn to play in the key of G, because C harmonica is one that's kind of a middle range and one that we're going to use a lot. But learn to play just a G and a G7. All you have to do is to turn it into a G7 is just to add an extra note to it. Learn to play, and that's used in the blues. In the blues, they're not going to play G, C, vanilla ice cream, and D, vanilla ice cream. They're not doing that. In the blues, they take these chords and they color them by adding in that extra 7th. So you've got, and then you have, and then, so vanilla, vanilla ice cream, right? Then we'll make these 7ths. So just that one note. If you just learn to do your 3 chords like that, you can sit down with any 12-bar blues, not even with the tempo, but just play the chord. See what works. Go, especially on the 4. I hear a lot of harmonica players on the 4. Again, and we're talking about blues now. This may not be true for a pop song or a country song, but in the blues, the 4 chord is just about always a 7th chord. So in this case, we're playing a C harmonica, G. C chord is our 4 chord. But the piano's not doing 1, 2, 3 blow or 1, 2, 3, 4 blow. No, the piano is going, the band, the piano, the guitar, the Hammond organ player, they're playing this. They've got the 3-draw half in the chord. So I hear a lot of harmonica players just continue to play the 3-draw over that. And you can kind of get away with that, I guess. You know, that's kind of a gray area, but I think the 3-draw half step in just fits like hand in glove into that chord. But until I was able to sit down at the piano and examine that and test, that just sounds better. Oh, I see, because the chord has that. And, you know, I have examples that I could play for you sometime where I've recorded things that if I could go back and change it, I would, because I didn't know. And the same thing with the 7. If the 4 chord has a B flat in it, C, E, G, B flat, and I take a regular harp and I go to 7 draw, kind of rubs a little bit, creates a dissonant sound. So in that case, the 7 draw being tuned down helps me, or 6 overblow would help me, just to be a little bit more bluesy, a little bit more melodic, and to fit into those chord changes. And anyway, so the piano has been tremendous. Even if you don't play, just learn a few chords. There's also sites that there's one site called that lets you use the piano for free for like 5 minutes, and then it refreshes you. It wants you to pay for it, but you can just refresh it. But it's called gootar.com/piano, GOOTAR, gootar.com/piano. There's a little piano there. It'll tell you, if you press the keys, it'll tell you what they are. It's got a chord list. If you say, what does a G sound like? You can click on G and it'll show you. Boom. It'll play it for you. You can change it to a G7. You can change it to a G minor. You could say, I've always wondered what a diminished chord sounds like. What is that? It'll show you. So, you know, that's getting a little bit more advanced. But it's good to know those things. You play something like Georgia on My Mind, you can't play blues over all that stuff. You have to know how to weave in and out of the chord changes. So the piano will do that for you. Or if you don't want to do that, take a lesson with me, and I teach with this. So we put stuff in context. If we do Georgia, that's an option, but also an option may be or an option could be Georgia. I can help you know what notes work and what notes don't. Usually your ears will do that, but sometimes you have to kind of train. Sometimes listening. Listen, I love chords. I love the sound of chords. That's the canvas behind any singer, guitar player, harmonica, or whatever. Different canvases make different notes or different colors come alive, just like painting. Bob Ross would paint the canvas black, but he would still use his phthalo blue and titanium white and all this stuff. And he would say, "Oh, look at that! Look at how the canvas looks. I've painted this canvas black, and look how this color interacts with that." Well, it's the same thing musically. So Ray Charles is an example. Listen to what he does with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. He can take a song like that, and because of his chords and styling, he can just jazz it up. So anyway, sorry to ramble there, Tomlin, but
no, not at all. It's the knowledge of harmony, I think, is one of the most overlooked areas in harmonica students' timeline, and it's really the kind of the quickest way to know, to sound like you know what you're doing, is just a little bit of harmonic knowledge. Your 1-4-5 chords, the arpeggios as you described, and I vividly remember it was actually a pianist that I used to live with, and this was in the kind of early days of me practicing harmonica, and I'd be practicing over these 12-bar blues tracks, and he just said to me, you know what would sound really cool if you played that note there, and he was kind of stopping me when I hit the 3-draw half step bend. If you play that, just play it over the 4 chord. Don't play it everywhere else. Just hit it over the 4 chord. And I was like, why? He's like, just trust me. And I did. I was like, wow. So like every time I do that, I think of that guy. And if someone out there does that, if a student plays clean 3-draw, plays the B natural over the 1 chord, and then they make the obvious choice to change it to the B flat over the 4 chord, everyone listening is gonna be like, oh, this person knows what they're doing. And it's just a little bit of knowledge.
Exactly. And if you've ever been in a choir or in a school choir, or and the music teacher teaches parts, then you that helps develop your ear if you've ever had that experience, because the choir director will slap your wrist. No, this is the part. They have the music. They're reading the music and they're saying da 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 da. Okay, tenors, this is your part. Da 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 da. Altos, maybe da 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 da. And sopranos, maybe da 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 da. Whatever, they'll play all 3 parts and whatever. And if somebody's out of tune harmony wise, then they'll say, wait, stop, somebody in the soprano section, sing your part for me, and they'll single you. I've seen them do that. Aha, it's you. And everybody laughs, but that really helps. The more you listen for this stuff, just like what you're talking about, 3-draw half step in, man, that's the cornerstone of the blues for me, at least in my book. That's when they name restaurants the Blue Note Cafe and stuff like that. They're doing so because of the 3-draw half step bend. So we talked about Jailhouse Rock uses 3-draw half step bend. Another one is Spoonful. So that spoonful. That's the whole riff of the song. Baby, please don't go. And then the Beatles come together. whole step. But then here's what you're talking about over the 4. Whatever.
So cool.
Stuff like that, man. That's what made the blues sound bluesy. So it's a very, very cool note, and it really fits so many places. Even over the 5, you can put the 3 draw half step in. Or a little tension. I usually pull it down to the 3 draw whole step, but you can use it for tension, or you can use it in, you hear it in chords like, that's a kind of a weird 5 chord. But it's got the 3 draw half step bend in it. You hear that in jazz and things like that. But hope this is helpful, man, to somebody listening out there.
I'm sure it is. I mean, I'm really enjoying listening to you chat about this stuff. But I am mindful of your time, and I'd really like to just have a quick chat about new things that you're working on. This is a very fun thing that you showed me at the beginning of before we hit the record button. You've been working on something new. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, sure. Yeah, if you go on my Facebook page, you'll see I have a supply of these harmonica combs, and I just like colors, and I've always liked crazy colors, and I've played custom combs by everyone: Blue Moon, Chris Reynolds, Randy Sandoval, Hetrick, all of the comb makers. If there's been a custom comb maker, I have Andrew Zajac. I've played all of their stuff, and I love everyone's work. I just like colors, so I'm making these combs out of this marbly looking material, and I can make any color that anyone would like. I can mix any 2 colors, any 3 colors, 4, whatever. So if you want a tie-dye harmonica comb, I can produce it. And right now I'm just doing golden melodies and marine bands, and I'm not trying to be a big time business or anything like that. I'm just doing gold melody and marine bands right now. I may do other models, but I just wanted to offer some crazy colors and things. So I'm just having a blast with experimenting with these and putting them on my own harps. I've got one that looks like fire. It's like a red and yellow and orange swirl. And I've got a green one, got a blue one. And then I have some conservative ones, which I know we're just doing audio, but this is like a caramel.
That's cool.
Brown. I've got one that looks like tortoise shell, and there's really no limit on the color combinations I can do. So I just wanted to do something like that and put it out there. This one's a pink. Well, it's really pink and blue, but it looks. There's a picture of this one on Facebook too. It looks purple, but it's really like a pink and blue cotton candy color swirled together. So it helps me in my case just to know which key is which without having to look at these teensy little stamped letters on there, which now that I need reading glasses, it's the colors help. But yeah, I'm just having fun, man. I'm really just having a blast with these colors. I love all of the comb makers and their products, but I just wanted to do something on my own just to see what kind of colors I can come up with. So yeah, these are great, and they're really machined professionally locally here, and then I take time to make sure that they're flat sanded and they're checked very thoroughly for flatness before they go out. Right now, I'm just kind of doing them for Skype students, and I don't have a website or anything yet, but I'm getting ready to get some more made, and I may put up some type of page or something off of my website or something like that. So just watch. I'll at least have a link for it out there. But yeah, I was always the kid that wanted the big box of crayons with the pencil sharpener. I've always loved colors. And if anybody's seen my harp case, they'll know that's true. So.
Yeah, I think they look absolutely amazing. It's a little bit lost on kind of audio only, so I really want people to go and check them out. I'm definitely going to put an order in if you're, well, when you start accepting orders. One thing I will say that not a lot of people talk about with custom combs, but if you've got a harmonica that doesn't really feel particularly responsive. It depends on what comb it comes with initially, but things like special 20s and golden melodies, I find that a custom comb quite often is one of the biggest upgrades you can do to the playability. Especially kind of those plastic combed harmonicas, there are loads of recesses and things that aren't particularly great for air tightness, whereas when you've got a completely flat sanded piece of acrylic or wood or whatever, it makes a huge difference.
Well, especially on a marine band or a golden melody, because they're sandwich style, you can actually get to them even after they're machined. And when I'm flat sanding them, which is often, it's either one of two things. If the harp is leaky, it's the comb, that the stock comb that's not completely flat. And I don't just mean like when you look at it horizontally, but if you turn it and look down the side of the like a profile view. I know we're just on audio, but if you look down the side of it and you put your straight edge on each tine, you can see sometimes the combs will have a little valley in the middle, or sometimes they'll have a hump slightly, like a slight curve in the top. So if you can get that out, then you're automatically going to create a tighter seal. And the same is true with reed plates. You have to examine those. And if you take the time to make sure that your comb and your reed plates and your comb mate together well, then that alone is a huge improvement. And sometimes a stock comb is fine. Sometimes it's just like reed work. Sometimes you'll get one that came off of the machine at Honer. That's just fine. Special 20 combs they're fine. They have the ABS plastic has kind of some flex to it. I have one here. I know we're just doing audio, but this rocket comb has enough flex to it that it may compensate for imperfections in it. But I think with special 20 combs, they just look pretty. The black special. I mean, when a custom special 20 comb looks pretty. What with all the colors. The plain black plastic, there's not much you can do to dress that up. You can polish it, but so I'm hoping to have a product for special 20s soon, because I do like those. I know a lot of people play those.
Nice.
But yeah, man, it's I've loved combs ever since. I mean, probably like the early 2000s. I had some custom combs at that time. I don't know if it was Earl the Pearl or there was a guy in Germany one time that did a custom comb for me. But anyway, ever since I started fighting all these crazy colors, I've never looked back. And I've got everything color coded.
No, I think well, for me, it's brilliant to see that, because when I first started playing harmonica, I'm a very geeky person, and when I get into something, I go deep and I find out all the kind of weird custom versions I can do, and I got sucked into combs, and I think Hetrick was making combs, and Chris Reynolds, Chris Michalek, there are all these people.
Chris.
Yeah, which is kind of a blast from the past, and then I was looking at all these players, and nobody seemed to have crazy colors, and I was like, oh, maybe I need to be a little bit more subdued. And then I've seen pictures of your case, and it's like a rainbow, Technicolor rainbow. I was like, yes, this is cool. I have permission to have crazy colored harmonicas.
Oh yeah, it's like Chris McCulloch, and what a interesting guy. He was a cool dude. Sometimes misunderstood.
Yeah.
He was a character on some of the forums and stuff, but he made some combs for me too. In fact, the Amazing Grace that's on my CD was recorded on one of his combs. I've used everybody's combs. I think I recorded one of my songs on a Blue Moon comb. Chris Reynolds, I have a bunch of his stuff. I really wish he were still making combs. But I've got a ton of his stuff. Randy Sandoval, another good comb maker. But just about everybody's comb just about every comb maker that's made combs, I have one of their combs and have recorded stuff using their combs. So, yeah, it's a lot of cool guys out there in the community. But I'm just hoping to add some more color. That's all.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. Well, I'll post links to your Facebook page and also to your website in the show notes, and hopefully people start pestering you to get a website up for the combs. That'd be cool. And yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do it again sometime.
Great, Tomlin. Well, thanks again for having me on. I really appreciate it. Always a pleasure talking with you.
Likewise. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Too.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Tomlin's Harmonica podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review on your podcast player of choice. Join me next Monday for the next episode. Happy harping!